and let me start letting everybody. Okay. Welcome, ladies. Welcome. Okay, so we are so excited to have a good handful of you with us live. Today is our monthly marketing meetup, and we have Real Social with us. So far, we have half the duo. We have Kim. Whitney's going to be popping in here shortly, but this is the time each month where you get to kind of dive in and ask questions. We do have a ton of questions that have been asked, but as always, we want to give first shot to those ladies that brave joining the call with us. So welcome, ladies. How are you? Real quick, too, you can either take off your mics and let us know, or just kind of drop in the comments as far as like showing up on social, confidence and consistently. If you're killing that, give us a 2, and if you need help, give us a 1 and let us know where you are in that. And Kim, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. I know I just threw something in the chat. I'm always curious to know what people's hurdle currently is, because we, in all of our conversations, I feel like we really like to meet you where you are. Obviously, there's a whole spectrum of, when you say social media, I think, where people are, but also what that makes them feel. Some people get really excited and they're like, get all creative. And then on the other end, you have people who are just like, I don't even want to talk about this. I can't believe I showed up for this. And you're already probably sweating. So if you're somewhere on that spectrum, we see it all, we hear it all. So I just like to always start off these conversations kind of like a level set, because it's very normal and natural for anything that you're feeling. I guarantee we've heard it before. And a lot of times what we hear is the biggest obstacle is ourselves, right? It's either I'm lacking the confidence because I don't know what to say, or I don't like how I sound, or I don't like what I look like, or whatever. And we just immediately try to combat all that, because you are who you are. You're really good at what you do. And you sound like what you sound like. And if you don't like it, I guarantee the people who are showing up and listening to you, they do like it. So we got to kind of get out of our own way at the beginning.
Oh my gosh, you sound how you sound. I
You
always tell
do.
myself, and then I'll walk through like a room where I'll be somewhere and I hear somebody listening to me, and I'm like, turn that off right now.
I do it all the time. I mean, if that makes I feel like I just want to like normalize stuff, because I literally at night, I think we paint the picture. Whitney taught me this, and I am trying to implement it too. If you're doing social the way that we hope you're doing social, it looks like you're on it all the time, but you're really not. You're being smart with your time blocking, your batching. You're not literally like doing everything in the moment on your phone. So when you're effective at that, it does look like you're constantly on there, but your phone could very well be in the drawer, which Whitney is the queen of. So I'm trying to emulate her as much as possible. But anyway, what I was going to say is, my husband, I feel like always I hear stories, like he'll sit in the evening and I'll just hear him going through Instagram stories. And when my stuff comes on, I'm like, oh, stop listening to that. So I do it too.
I always feel like embarrassed, because I feel like if I'm around like people that I see more on social but not in person, when I see them, I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to hear my annoying voice all the time on social media. Like, you know what I mean? I just feel like, I'm sorry you have to listen to that.
Yeah, I think, somebody said to me once, and not so much just related to social media, but if you think about just how you're showing up for your clients in general, I do think we have these moments of, we're either intimidated or we feel guilty. Either we haven't shown up enough, or we feel like we've let too much time pass. And so, like, how do I pick up this conversation again? And unfortunately, what most of us do is you just continue to let more time go, right? Instead of just taking the bull by its horns and figuring out how to just pick up the phone, send a note, send a message, whatever. But the reality is, your clients really want to hear from you. And so I think in those moments when you feel like, why am I doing this? Or, you're getting in your own way of like, I don't like how I sound, or I don't know what I'm talking about. First of all, you do know what you're talking about. And the audience that you're showing up for, they want to hear what you have to say. So I think I always try to give myself that little pep talk before I'm going to do something. It's like, I'm showing up because I know the person who I'm talking to actually wants to hear this. And that's all I'm going to focus on.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Does anybody on the call have a question before I share some of them that are coming in online?
Don't be shy, people.
Okay, I'll share one. Let's see. Okay, how can I use Reels to show off my personality expertise while still creating content that brings in leads consistently?
Oof, that is so good. Well, first of all, reels are the way to go. So I love that you actually are already saying that's what you're already kind of thinking that, because there are a lot of ways that you can market yourself. But I think you showing yourself and getting in front of the audience that you're trying to attract or that you're trying to nurture, you have to show you. That's not something a mailer can do. That's not something an email can do. So I think fundamentally, you got to show up just like yourself. Don't think that you have to be, if you're not Ryan Serhant, don't try to show up like Ryan Serhant. Do you know what I mean? Just be who you are, because you don't need to catfish people. But I think if you're jumping in and you're willing to do reels, there are a couple different things that we coach on. There are 5 different styles of content that we preach that are really good. They're all good categories that you can use in Reels. You can use them in other places too. But let me just list them off for you so you guys can ask me questions if you want me to go deeper. The 5 styles are viral, vulnerable, value, proof, and thought leadership. Do you guys need me to repeat those? Viral, value, vulnerable, proof, thought leadership. Okay, so those are the 5. Viral, obviously, you guys probably know what that is. It's like the 5-second, you've got a trending audio behind you and you're probably not doing a whole lot, but your caption can say more. But it's just one of those things, you're trying to catch people's attention. You can still do that very much by staying on brand. You don't have to turn into somebody silly if you're not normally silly. So just make sure you're staying true to who you are, even when you're doing viral. My personal favorite is value. And this is the thing that I wanted to answer this question with is, I think if you can just back yourself up a little bit and think about all the things that you do on a daily basis for your clients that they probably, 1, don't know that you're doing, but 2, they don't understand what you're doing because they aren't in it like you are. Remember, they're looking at houses like once every decade, So go ahead and start listing out some of those things, right? Maybe it's what you do when you show up for an inspection. Maybe it's what you do. What is a request remedy? I mean, God forbid, we don't do a lot of these, but when you do, people are like, wait, what? We can ask the seller, we can negotiate. Think about these things that come up in your process in which you're working with people. And then I would also say, think about questions. What questions do they have? What are their pain points? Where are they lost in the process? Those are all great areas to come up with some value-oriented content. And those reels can be 10 seconds to 30 seconds. You can do face to cam where you're talking like this and you can really explain or teach. And if you're going to do that, remember, talk without industry jargon and break it down at kindergarten level. Okay. It actually makes it way easier anyway. But just try to explain it like I use my late 70-year-old mom as the filter, because I'm like, what would she ask me? And 1, I do have to slow down, but it's like you just kind of have to use different examples instead of thinking like you're talking, like a Zoom like this. Or you can use B-roll. So if it's not face to cam, you can use B-roll. And I love B-roll because I find that people are a little bit more confident showing up doing B-roll, which means B-roll, for anybody who hasn't tried this before, it's basically you doing any activity. You do not have to be talking to the camera. The action of whatever you're doing, it could be making a cup of coffee, it could be typing emails, it could be walking through a house, it could be putting a sign in the yard, it could be sitting down at a closing table. I mean, there are a myriad of examples. But if you just film yourself in 5 to 15-second snippets with these different topics that I just listed that you're doing all the time, save those to your phone, put them in a folder, label it B-roll, and then you have video. So if you think of an idea, you can then just pull one of those video clips and you're making it easier. You're not starting from beginning to end. That was a lot. I don't even know if I answered the whole question, Randy.
Let's go back. So it was, how can I use Reels to show off my personality and expertise while still creating content that brings in leads consistently? And I would say, Kim, I mean, that's why it's so important to know who your ideal avatar is and your niche and match your avatar to you, right? Because then it's kind of one and the same when you're doing those things. One thing also, Kim, that I would love for you to just speak on a little bit. I'm I'm an overthinker. So something I do with B-roll is I feel like my text on screen or my context should match what's happening in the B-roll. And lately I've been
Girl.
watching, I'm like, I just read that and it had nothing to do with the B-roll in the back. And so I think that that's a powerful thing to put out there is like, hey, your B-roll doesn't have to match what you're talking about. It can just be completely different B-roll of like life, right?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I think there's a stopping power to that, right? I do think, I see Whitney, she's in here now. I do think we see that a lot where people think whatever I'm talking about, everything has to match that. And I understand that it's a linear way that our brains think. But when you think about how consumers are on this tool or how they're on this platform and we're using it as a business tool, you've got to figure out how to break through and get them to stop. And so one really great way to do that is to not have it match. Have it still be you doing something, but maybe it's showing a little bit more of the personality of things that maybe you do outside of work to show that you're more than just a real estate robot. But you can talk about real estate on top of that B-roll and show that you're a complete badass at what you do while you're also probably juggling 5 other things in your life, because that's relatable. That's what people are like, oh, well, gosh, I kind of feel like her and now I'm going to pay attention.
Yeah, so good. Okay, we're getting the questions now here in this chat as well. So I want to keep those coming. Do you want to read those or are you checking those out, Kim?
I'm checking them out. Whitney, chime in, sis.
Yeah, I saw somebody pop in and say, can you give us more clarity on B-roll? And I just want to give a big fat Bible amen for keeping us on track, because we assume so often that people understand what we're talking about and they don't. And this is a great lesson for you in your business too, in real estate, that you assume that people understand a lot of the things that you do and they don't. And so taking the time to explain that to them makes them smarter and also makes them feel more at ease. So B-roll footage, in our opinion, is literally any video footage that you're not speaking to the camera. You're doing something. It could be you in the frame where you're zhuzhing a pillow or you're staging a kitchen island. It could be not you in the photo, and it could literally be video footage of you at a restaurant and the things that you ordered in front of you. So it's just video where you're not speaking to the camera. You're capturing what's happening, whether you're in the video or not.
So good. So Christy says she has an idea for multiple reel series, but she's not sure how to implement it while being herself and not copying every other agent we see daily. And I just think this is also important because we have to remember our clients' feeds don't look like our feeds, right? And so sometimes I think we're like, oh, well, that person in my market already did it. Great. I had that trending audio sound or saved or whatever. Now I can't create it. Like the odds of them, even if they followed both, the odds of them seeing both are slim to none, but they probably don't follow both, right?
I feel like I don't have a lot of pet peeves, but this is one that I swear I'm just like, guys, if you are in real estate and you're not trying to attract other agents, don't worry about what other agents are doing on social. Okay. If you have too many in your feed, I suggest you unfollow a bunch. It's fine. If it's becoming too much of a distraction and you feel like you are in that imposter syndrome all the time, unfollow, guys, unfollow. When you are thinking about creating the content, it is not about other agents. I say this all the time in probably every presentation that we do. If I do a post and it gets a lot of love from other agents, like in our market or around the country, I'm like, okay, I kind of missed it. That's not really who the video was for. So I always use that as a pulse. I don't overanalyze it. I just think, ooh, like maybe I should have used different words, or maybe I should have just had a different message or a different hook, right? Kristen, you are cracking me up right now, by the way. This is a whole good reel for you right now.
All break.
It's so good. It's so good.
We love classic. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm serious, you guys. This could be B-roll if you just propped up your phone. This is how we roll. Okay. So first of all, remember who you're talking to. And when you're thinking about the power of social media and why we should all be on this as a business tool anyway, is you have the ability to attract the people who you actually want to work with and stop working with the people who you don't want to work with anymore. And it's all in what you start to say. What is your message? What are you trying to convey? who is it that you're trying to attract? So I do think there's some work to do. If you have no idea who that is, start visualizing. I mean, if you're new to the business, just picture that person. Who would I want to work with over and over again? Maybe where do they live? What age are they? What things are they going? What's going on in their life? You know, what pain points do they have? Where are they struggling in terms of housing? Like, is it too big? Is it too small? Can they not afford it? All those kind of things. Get real with that person and what their life is about, because that's how you start creating the content, is make it relatable to them and what their life is, not relatable to another agent, right? And if an agent loves on you guys, like, trust me, if I'm following you, you're probably going to see a heart from me, and that's not bad. You just don't want it to all be that.
Yeah.
So I do think you got to spend time thinking about who the heck it is that you want to be working with.
And I would piggyback off of that, Kim, and to say there's no such thing as an original idea. So if you have this idea for a series, but you think that someone else has already done that thing.
We might have lost her.
I think we did.
Okay, I can pick up her thought, and when she comes back, just tell her that I didn't say all this. I do think what she was going to point out is, we think that because we saw someone else do it, that everyone else saw them do it. It's okay. It's okay to have a little bit of a rip on what someone else is doing and just adapt it to your style, right? Whitney, you keep going. I see you now.
Brian called, you can blame my husband for that. He called me and I tried to X out of it and then X out of the Zoom on accident.
Brian.
But the point is, there's no original idea. Just because someone else has done it doesn't mean that you can't do it. Our challenge to you is make it you. Make it so undeniably your personality and your perspective that it doesn't even really look and sound the same, right? And don't get tripped up about whether or not somebody's done it. I guarantee you there's not a thing in the world I've ever done that somebody somewhere hasn't done it. There's no such thing as original thought. So don't shackle yourself creatively. If you have an idea, freaking do it.
I also, just one more thing on this too. Don't think that people are going to watch every single second of every single video. So don't get too stuck in this. I feel like we talk with our clients that we work with one-on-one, and we'll hear, oh, well, I already did a video on that topic. It's like, yeah, we're going to do another one. We're going to do a bunch, because this is the power of branding. It's the power of messaging. You have to get real clear on what the message is, and then you have to say it over and over and over again for people to start remembering you with that message. So, you know, if you're all about first-time home buyers, and let's say there's 3 things that you always want to mention about first-time home buying, then you're going to be repeating those 3 things a lot. But guess what? It's going to sound repetitive to you and only you, because not everybody is going to capture every single second of your content. And that's okay. We don't digest everybody's content.
That's really good. Okay. Anybody else on the call want to ask anything before we jump to another question outside of the call? This is your chance. You get all the goods directly for you.
Hey, I have a question. So like right now with all that's going on, the hurricanes that are happening in the area, it's really hard to post. It's just like a heavy weight. So I almost feel selfish, or like I'm taken away from what's happening. So any thoughts on how not to stop posting, because it just feels like the wrong time, but still to be.
Yeah. Julie, I'm so glad to hear your voice. We miss you. And I so deeply understand whenever big things in the world happen that are heartbreaking, it makes you feel bad for continuing on with business as usual. But I would tell you it's a disservice to you and your business to just stop what you're doing, because bad things are happening in the world all the time. And there's always going to be a reason that you can come up with that is more important to elevate instead of your work, if you really try hard. So my advice to you is it's twofold. Number one, can we acknowledge and make relevant statements about what's happening, right? So I know a lot of your work is heart-centered virtually. And so, you know, maybe you share local fundraisers that are for the relief efforts because that feels really good to you, and you still continue to market your business. Or maybe you give X percentage of your revenue of that month to hurricane relief, and you still promote your business, right? Like, you're catching the theme here is that we do and not or. We don't stop what we're doing. We pay attention to and give light to, but also we keep going because we're passionate about this work, and dadgummit, people need it.
I also think, Julie, you know, in your grid, in your feed, you know, still go forward with the reels that you would normally post. I think in your stories, you can probably have a different slant. I mean, remember, in your stories, those are people who are already in your community. They're already here following you. They want to hear what you have to say. So I think that's where you can be a little bit more, if you want to be a little bit more vulnerable, if you want to offer, you know, resources or connect people. I think that's a huge opportunity for you to do so. I just tell people, if you're going to do that, just double check whatever it is that wherever you're pointing people, just make sure you do the due diligence that you're pointing them in the right place.
I got it. I think you shared exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
It's so good to hear your voice, by the way.
Oh, it's glad to be here. I was happy when I saw y'all too.
Love it. Okay, we have a question. I think this is a good one. What are the top 3 hooks or trending ideas that will help me attract buyers and sellers right away, even with the small following? All tactical. They just want to get to business.
Well, I love that. I love that. Whitney, I did talk about the 5 styles. So I think we could kind of, maybe if you want to tap into one of those, but I feel like if you're trying to attract, let's just say it's buyers or sellers, whatever, but you're going to choose one for these videos. I think, first of all, don't just post one and think it's going to be everything. Okay. So let's promise we're going to be consistent and you're going to do more than one. I think, again, getting into the language of which the person that you're trying to attract, the words that they say. So if it's somebody who is trying to buy a home and maybe they're really frustrated, get real clear on what's frustrating to them. Maybe it's the interest rate, maybe it's not. Maybe it's the fact that they can't find a house, but maybe that's not it. Like, get real clear on those conversations that you're having and use those words in your reel. Okay. I would have one piece of information per reel. So don't try to throw 50 things in a reel. Like, these are the 5 things you need to think about if you're buying a home. I would break it down to one. If you're trying to buy a home right now, here's what you need to focus on. Wit is really good with the hook stopping, you know, breaks. You throw out a hook.
So here's the deal. I'm going to lead off by saying that we're going to shift our perspective and our expectation of social media. Because when you ask me what are the 3 hooks that are going to convert people to buy right now, you're never going to know what those 3 are that are going to end up converting, because it's likely over time they've been watching you and building trust and authority, and we never know which one thing is going to get them to work with you. Also, no one just wakes up and is like, it sees a 30-second video and is like, by George, I'm selling my house. That's a big decision. Okay. So we're going to adjust our perspective on what social can do for us in our business. First thing. The second thing is, can we get more strategic about getting people's attention better, about getting them to pay attention to what we're doing better? You betcha. Okay. And so as long as that is our goal and we're not expecting that one piece of content is going to do the heavy lift for our entire business, then I'm cool with you wanting more strategy and tactics. Okay. So from a hook perspective, you know, Kim already talked about value, viral, vulnerable, thought leadership, improved style content. We use different hooks for each style of content based on what we're trying to do. So for example, if you are trying to get more eyes on what you're doing, then you might have a piece of viral content. And that piece of viral content is going to have a hook that's a little bit more conversational and a little bit more pop culture, right? So you've seen anybody say that, I don't know who needs to hear this, but, and then you usually put something that's polarizing in the but statement. Or you might say POV with a colon, and then you might paint a picture of one of their toxic traits, something they do, like saying that you want to sell your house, but not being willing to XYZ. I don't know. I'm making things up for you, right? But these are more pop culture angle hooks where it's language that they would use or pay attention to because it's current and trendy, versus a thought leadership hook, which, in to take Kim's example, instead of doing 3 or 5, we do 1. So we go really polarizing on a thought leadership post by saying the number one reason why your house isn't selling. The biggest mistake you could make with X, right? So you're dialing in on the 1 and you're using language that is a little bit more inflammatory to really get their attention. That kind of content, while it feels extra polarizing, is the kind of thing that's going to get them to stop and pay attention, which is the job of your content. Yeah.
So good. Okay, well, we've got like 3 minutes left. So does anybody on the call want to ask anything or comment anything? Otherwise, we can take one more question from the live. Stacy?
So I guess one question just for social media. I have my work and my personal blended together. I just never wanted to manage two separate ones. And when I started, I was on a team, so that couldn't have worked anyways. But my accounts, both on Instagram and Facebook, are private. When I post things on Facebook, I'll change the privacy to public. But I'm just curious, do you think that it's a deficit to have them set to private? Yes.
Yeah. I would say think about if you're open for business and think about the content that you're consuming. If you're liking it and you get to that page and then you have to request, you're not going to do it. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to do it. So I think as long as you are, I mean, I just think, look, I've said this probably 3 times already on this call, but use this as a business tool and you're open for business. So if there's something that you're posting and you're not comfortable with it being like on that business page, maybe rethink what you're posting. But I have a feeling you're already doing a great job knowing that you've married those two things. And because a lot of times we get the question the other way. It's like, oh, well, I've got these 2 accounts and I don't want to let one go. And you've already tackled that one. So just be open for business. I know sometimes that can create a little bit of anxiety for people, but the reality is like, you're going to start attracting the people that you want, but you've got to let them in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're a public figure. You're running your business. You're a public figure. And if I am looking to you and I'm like, she's going to sell my house, but then I realize that people can't even see your content to buy my house from you, it's an immediate no for me, right? So not only are we losing out on potential referrals that wouldn't say yes because they can't see anything, but also it's giving a subliminal message about the way that you market too. And I'm sure you're not really thinking about that. That's not your intention, but that's kind of the way that it comes off. So I would tell you if there's something that you don't want people to see that's private, like then, you can either have a personal Facebook or social and you can put it there, or you can do like Kim and Whitney and we just don't show things that we don't want the entire world to be able to see. And that's been a radical shift in our behavior, but we run our businesses off these platforms. And so we see them, just like Kim said, as a business tool.
Thank you. That's really valuable.
Okay, ladies, I know I said one more, but Rachel's asking, and so I want to make sure we include this one because I think it's a really good one. How do you go from never using social for business to slowly using it without turning off your followers and friends by going more business related content?
Make them sick of you. Make them sick. Girl, don't you shackle yourself. Go ham. If they don't want to see it, sayonara sucker. The fact that we are worried as women, this you can tell I get riled up. We are worried as women about making people annoyed, about being too much, showing up too big. Honey, you are never going to be too big for the people who really desire to work with you. Don't limit yourself. Okay. And chances are really good that you don't have the bandwidth and energy to go so hard that they would want to unfollow you anyway. I mean, like if you're telling me that you've got the energy to post 3 times a day and be that annoying, then I'm going to tell you rock on with your self and do it anyway. I don't think anybody's going to care.
I would also say, don't watch your own stuff too much. I think a lot of times when people do that, when they say this, I'm like, you are watching it way more than anyone else. So post, do your engagement and move on with your life because you've got a lot going on. And this is not you trying, you don't need to like dissect everything you've done. And remember, people's attention span, it's little. So you have to show up. You have to consistently show up. And maybe you think that's annoying, but maybe that's exactly what it's going to take for somebody to finally engage because they aren't going to see the first 50 videos necessarily. But if you 51, 52, maybe that's your person. So keep going.
So good. All right. Well, I think we could probably keep going all day, but we are at time. So thank you as always, Kim and Whitney, for joining us. We super appreciate it. And thank you, ladies, for jumping in with us. We always much prefer when we have faces to talk to, although we love the live stream. So we're thankful for the questions coming in there too, but it is easier, right, to talk to faces. So anything else you ladies want to share before we wrap up?
just get out there and show your daggum face and do it. And we're excited to be able to hopefully answer your questions and just make a little bit of a difference for you behind the scenes. You can always reach out if you have questions. We're always here to help.
And post or tag us in your post. We'll love on you. We'll share it. Just at Real Social Agent is where you can find us on Instagram.
I want to say have a good event this week. I'm really excited for you guys. Can't wait to see all the pictures.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have fun, ladies.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.